You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by the National Association of Convenience Stores.
And welcome to Convenience Matters. This is Jeff Lenard with the National Association of Convenience Stores, and I'm joined by a co-host today.
I'm Carolyn Schnare, also with NACS. Thank you for having me.
And what we're going to talk about today is Convenience Matters is about all things that matter related to convenience. If it's convenient, it probably matters to you. We know that about half of the U.S. population goes to convenience stores every day, so it obviously matters to them. And today we're recording at the NACS Show, and we have a longtime friend of NACS and us, Kent Couch. And Kent Couch is from Bend, Oregon, has a number of interesting topics we'd like to talk about, but I'll just throw this teaser out there right now. His last name is Couch, and he's in the Guinness Book of Records for something he did while sitting down, and we'll get to that a little bit later.
All right.
But we'd like to start, just welcome Kent.
Hey, thanks. Wow, it's great to be here again. I wouldn't miss it for nothing.
So I've been coming to NACS Show 17 years now. I think you've probably come longer than me. And you come back every year with new ideas. This is one of the ways you energize yourself. And you're a one-store operator. You're a one-store operator in Bend, branded retailer, and you have to stand out in a very crowded marketplace.
Yeah. Well, I'll take it from the first year that I ever came to NACS. The first seminar I think I went to, it was all about separating yourself from your competitors. And I knew right away I had a lot of competitors around me, and I didn't know about C-stores. I came out of the grocery store business. They're all pretty cookie cutter, and they were talking about cookie cutters and convenience stores, and I said, geez, that's me. I am a cookie cutter store. Why would anybody come to me versus my competitor? And I went back home, and I started brainstorming, how could we separate ourselves? You know, and one of the things, I think the first thing we ever did that we saw such an impact was because Oregon being a non-self-service pumping gas, that all my guys were always struggling to keep them in uniforms. I said, well, we're going to really put them into uniforms. I put them into white pants, white shirts, black belts, black shoes, and a black tie and a pointy little hat that just said, I'm your customer service agent. And I'll tell you, we started getting the media coming looking for us. They wanted to know what was going on here, and people started driving as a destination just to come see us, to see the old-fashioned service that we'd created. And I would never have got that idea, and I would never had the guts to try such a silly thing if I hadn't come to NACS and learned about separating myself from my competitors.
And the other thing, Carolyn, when you see the self-serve, they also have a bin where they have dog treats. And you'll occasionally hear dogs announcing happily that somebody's filling up. And we know the challenge of filling up, whether it's $2 or $4 a gallon, it's never fun. But for some of these dogs, it's fun because they know they're getting a biscuit. And that could make the difference if you're trying to compete on gallons. It
does make the difference. You know, people love their pets. And so to be able to give the pets a little treat, they know they're coming there. They know the parents, the
Four-legged parents.
The four-legged parents actually come to our station because the dogs are begging to go. And they know where they go. They seem to communicate some dog-human language. And so, yeah. And it's the same thing with the kids. You know, it's simple marketing to give kids suckers. We never fail to give the kids suckers. And when you give the kids suckers, you got to give the big kids suckers. So then we give the big kids suckers too. And it's just creating a way to separate yourself from your competitors. And our competitors have tried and tried to match us because they keep saying, why does that store do all that volume? And I think it's a lot to do with people skills, training with people skills, and then to separating yourself with something that people like. People like candy. People like dog bones. People like to see people dressed up separately and delivering a better service. Nobody gets away without getting their front and rear windows washed at our station, things like that.
Kent, talk to me about local products, being close with your customers and your competitors, even in some cases. You told me a story once long ago about one of your close competitors who is a friend, I believe, and cookies. Would you mind sharing that with me?
Well, sure. A friend of mine who I network with, but is also a staunch competitor of mine. We made a deal that we would not talk numbers, but we could gain from each other's knowledge. And so I told Tom, I said, Tom, I went into his store, actually kind of sneaking around, and I found these cookies that I just loved. They were no-bake cookies. So I said, Tom, geez, those are so good. Where are you getting them? He said, well, my wife's making them. I said, your wife's making them? Oh, I'm not sure that's legal. He said, I don't know, but I'm doing it. So then I said, well, could Carol make some for my store? And he says, I don't know. I'll ask her. And then he said, well, it's kind of complicated. And then I said, well, package them and bring them over to me. And he never would do that, But today, Tom, we were both fighting, by the way, to figure out who could overcome the other guy. And neither one of us could ever achieve full dominance over each other in our stores. But Tom today is now on the store floor with an exhibit of no-bake cookies that he's selling out throughout the nation. And it all started in his C-store. And it started with just one little idea, about making a cookie. And now his son's running his store. He's running this huge no-bake cookie company, which is through all the major distributors and throughout the nation now.
And Carolyn, you mentioned local. Having been to Kent's store, he's a branded retailer. He looks like a branded station that's differentiated. Simple things like, I'll say the brand name, Shell. And so the landscaping out front spells out Shell in plants. But still, to reference your local angle, I use this in a presentation talking about local. There's a sign right on the front of your door. This store is locally owned. And that means a lot to communicate I sell local products, I'm a local business, and one of those local products is I don't know, about 52 of those local products if you look at what you're doing inside the store with the taps that you have with local beers and of course Bend being the epicenter for beer.
Yeah. For craft beer, Bend is probably the epicenter for craft beer. And what happened there and how we got into that business real quick was that we thought we were going to get taken over by craft beer and that our package sales were going to diminish. And we were scratching our heads trying to figure out how are we going to fight this battle? What are we going to do? Because we were the number one craft beer, our number one package beer in our market. We could outsell Safeway and oftentimes Costco's. Safeway, there wasn't a major market except for Costco who sometimes beat us out in package sales. But we
just
started.
Pause for a second. The Shell station sells more craft beer than Costco.
More package beer.
That's impressive.
Some months we compare ourselves. We got a monthly report, and sometimes we beat Costco. But the major grocery stores, we beat them regularly. And we did that all through NACS again. It was all through the beer cave when it first came around. This was way back 10, 15 years ago when they first came out with beer caves. We realized that how are we going to grow our business? It was through beer. This was, and then they called it a cold vault. So I went back and we figured out how to build a cave. So we made our cave look like a real cave. I mean, real rock, not patches of rock, but real rock looking. And so anyway, we built that. But back to the beer thing. So we thought we were going to get cannibalized. Our packaged beer was going to get cannibalized by this. And so we said, what are we going to do? And so we started through a NACS Daily. There was a little article about, I think it was called Sunoco, or however you pronounce that,
Sunoco.
Yeah, Sunoco. And they talked about them putting some beer taps in, and then it said a growler. Well, we didn't know what a growler was. What was a growler, And so then we started exploring what a growler was. We went to the Liquor Commission. They laughed at us, said, well, you can't do that in your store. And we begged them. We went back to them. We begged them. We went back. It took us a year and a half of begging before they entertained the idea. And finally, they realized it might be a good thing, and it might help create some extra income for them. So from there on, we built this thing. But it's not for everybody. Craft beer, the growler station isn't for everybody. You've got to have the room for it. But if you got the room for it, you can separate yourselves once more from your competitor and create destination.
And you're keeping the dogs out front from growling by giving them the treats afterwards, right?
Yeah.
No growlers outside, growlers inside.
There you go. Got a new sign.
We should be a comedy team. But also, speaking of growlers, one of the other new crazes which we've seen in your stores is not just growlers being something in a bottle, but crowlers.
Yeah.
And that's the new thing.
Yeah, crowlers are the new thing. Right now, I think it's 46% of our craft beer sales going out in a crowler versus a growler. And I'll explain that is that it's it's a can. In our case, it's a 32-ounce can that you fill just like you would a crowler with fresh craft beer. And keep in mind, why it isn't a package is because most of the great beers that are out there are not packaged yet. And the breweries are making these short runs of all these different craft beers, and it wouldn't be affordable to turn out a new bottle with a new label. And so to get fresh craft beer, you got to get it out of a growler or out of a keg, basically. And so putting it into a crowler seals it a lot better. And we seal it just like you would any can, like a Monster can or something. And that way we're able to keep freshness, and it gives life to the package. I think we can get sometimes mostly 2 months out of the life, where a growler we can get 5 days at best.
And it really applies to the local, because these are brewers that aren't big enough to bottle or can, or don't have the capital to do so. So you have two choices. Either you can go to the restaurant, drink it there on premise, or you can go to the gas station and bring it home, or bring it wherever you want. And so it's a real opportunity for retailers, isn't it?
It is a great opportunity. I think anybody that's in the growler business better be looking into the crowler business along with it. You have a little bit of an investment, but once you get past that, we're looking good.
Well, when we were at your store in August, our teenage daughter had your kombucha. So I think you owe us some money, because now she is fixated on kombucha. So we've spent a fair amount of money on kombucha over the last 2 months, finding it irregularly in other markets. But that's another thing that you have in your stores that's pretty neat.
Sure. We didn't expect kombucha to do what it was going to do. We put it on as a kind of a sideline to the taps of beer. We thought, well, if somebody comes in and they don't want to get they're not into drinking alcohol of any kind, well, we'll give them this kombucha option. Well, come to find out, right now, I think I'm up, since you came, I've added more taps. I think we're at 18 or 19 taps on kombucha. We're really out of space on it, but there's so much. It's such a powerfully growing market that it's just hard to keep up with. It's one of those markets that like energy drinks right now. I think kombucha is probably going to one day have its own door in the coolers if we can find room for it. It's a healthy option. Kombucha is a healthy option. It's got some good antibiotics in it, and the ones that don't have a lot of extra sugar added to them can really give you. I think you'd rather have your daughter drinking that kombucha than you would a Monster, wouldn't you?
We are agnostic in terms of what products.
Or of an energy drink.
She does have a lot
However,
of energy already, so I don't know. Maybe she doesn't need any more of that, huh?
Good counseling. No, it's as anybody who has a teenage daughter, keep them happy, you're happier.
Yeah.
So, Kent, you said earlier that you came in with one little idea can change your business. Here at the NACS Show, we hear that a lot. What is some advice to retailers about how to find that one little idea?
Well, you got to walk fast. I can tell you that. You first of all get to as many of the seminars as you can, because man, my brain just turns in those things. I already come up with some good stuff just by what I've heard so far this morning. And then once you get to the floor, you got to move to the areas that you can really do some damage with. Areas that look for things that tie into your market. I tell you, a couple years ago, I brought back boiled peanuts, and thought I could introduce them to the West Coast. Well, that did not work. But I'm used to having a few failures. But on the other hand, there's some great things. This year, I'm most interested in, I think, is in the coffee category again, but not in hot coffee, but in iced coffees and cold brew coffees. I know our industry is turning that way. I already see the Starbucks and those guys. They're selling more iced coffee than they are hot coffee in a lot of the markets now, from what I'm gathering. And we have to be able to get into that market and do better. So I'm hoping to gain some knowledge there this year.
Cold brewed coffee, huh?
Yeah.
That's your next brew of choice.
You can put that on tap, by the way. We've done that.
Yeah? That sounds good. I could use a cup of coffee.
We focused on ideas, brews, growlers or non-growlers. We'd like to have you on again. Just as a teaser, if you go to couchballoons.com, you'll find out why Kent is in the World Record Book, or Guinness Book of Records. And go to nacsonline.com/ideas to go. We have a nice segment there with Kent and some of the ideas he has at his stores. We want to let you go now, find more ideas, and we'll talk to you more when you implement them in your stores. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great show.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information about the National Association of Convenience Stores, go to nacsonline.com.